I'd like to introduce everyone to Alara Vural. Alara helps entrepreneurs and businesses create an emotional connection through their messaging. She currently offers the Raw Transformation Program, among other things. So first off, I know we've got like COVID, we've got elections and Brexit and everything. How are you doing, like in general? How are these times going for you?
Good. I mean, I think. By the way, I love the the raw transmit the with the American accent. It sounds like it's like uncooked. The raw,
Raw
R A
Transformation
W.
Program. Yeah, I saw it.
We
Yeah.
teach you how to uncook yourself. No, it's actually like the lion's raw. But in
Oh, is
American,
it
like
roar?
yeah, like raw.
Roar
But
transformation program.
but how
Okay.
isn't it? Don't you pronounce it the same in the in American accent?
It's like roar, raw,
Raw.
roar,
Raw. Okay, okay. Maybe in English
rah.
it's a
I
little
don't
bit
know.
more.
Rah is like
I think in English it's a little bit more similar.
I
Raw
didn't
and
see, I
raw.
didn't see it in text. I heard it in the thing and I was trying to sound smart, but it's
You got halfway
roar.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but COVID, it's one of the things that like I think I went through a bit of an emotional journey, and I think a lot of people I know did as well. I first of all had this like fear of, oh my god, the world's coming to an end and we're in lockdown, and then there's this denial of like, well, I can't live like this forever and we have to go back to normal soon, and what about my business, and it's not going to continue forever. Um but but COVID for me, um I actually ended up growing a lot from it because it made me a lot more like my work and my life had to merge a lot more. So it meant that I um, just showed up more as me in my business, and I actually ended up growing quite a bit through the COVID period, which I know a lot of people haven't had the luxury to do. But my business kept on growing through COVID, um, and I think, I can only guess, but I really think that that's kind of related to you, kind of, I don't know what the word is, but unifying who I am as a person, and bringing
Yeah.
that kind of as in an uncensored way to my business, and I do that through my videos and whatnot. So um,
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean
it's
you're
been a
all
been a
about
big learning curve.
emotional connection. And now we're like they call it social distance. It's physical distancing. We can
Yeah,
still be social, but I don't like the social distancing phrase. It's
yeah,
physical. But people really are trying to find ways to make emotional connections. And I mean, uh, it's it's difficult in general. Before COVID, like in general, it's just hard to do that, right? Like big
yeah.
brands do it. So
And I
um,
feel like we're constantly hungry for a connection with another human being, and that's the way that we're wired. And kind of up until before COVID, we were connected, I think, but I don't think there was really an infrastructure in place for people to really be vulnerable with each other, and feel a real connection with someone that they just met on the internet. And with COVID, you have to have a professional Zoom call with your dog barking in the background, or your kids coming in, or someone,
yeah,
or
yeah,
you flashing your wife or husband like walking in their dressing gown in the background. It's like forced people to be a little bit more vulnerable, and I think it's from moments of, like, even if it's little moments of vulnerability like that, you that's what really creates human to human connections. We don't we like to put on this facade of this professional. We like to have people think of us in a certain way, but really the real emotional connections come when we expose the um kind of just our inner workings to someone without trying to put a filter of what we want them to think. So um, I've loved that about COVID. I've loved that someone really serious, a CEO of a massive company, I've had a Zoom call with him and he showed me his dog. Um,
yeah, yeah.
and I think it's the same in my business as well. What I'm helping people do is be more vulnerable with their audience, so that their audience feels an actual real human connection to your business, which is oftentimes just seen as an entity that they're trying to sell me something that I
Yeah.
don't want to be sold to, right?
I mean, at a certain point, businesses are machines, but in a practical sense, like it seems that you work with early stage companies a lot, and maybe later stage, early stage is fun, like just in my experience, because you've got this raw sort of emotional energy, and people, they're not tainted yet. They haven't gotten to the point where there's lawyers and
Yeah.
all of the things that happen. But um, yeah, I think one of the things you mentioned before this was that being like an employee for a large company, it's difficult to have individuality, right? And I think
Mm,
even us as individuals are kind of like businesses. So
yeah.
maybe like COVID allowed us to have a little bit more individuality because we're all working from home or being ourselves or being separate. Maybe is that?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's one thing that's been kind of on my mind for quite a while now. Like, you have people that are absolutely unique, and um, definitely from my experience, I've seen and felt that when you can harness this uniqueness, when you can really truly take ownership of it and enhance it and communicate that, um, that's people thrive. You know, that's when you get results. That's when you make a um, real valuable change to the world. Um, when you connect to this kind of uniqueness inside of you and then enhance it. I call it your inner gold. Um, and the question that's kind of been on my mind is, well, does that mean that everyone should have their own business? You know, if everyone's so unique, does that mean everyone should kind of go in their own one direction? Because then you just have a whole a whole world of people, um, well, I guess, planting their own food, and we'd be going back to the ways that stuff was done, you know, in the caveman time.
Yeah,
So how do you collaborate and work? You know, have people that are all unique and all have a different value to add to the world, collaborating in a way, under a business. Under a corporation, working in the same direction, achieving the same goal, but still maintaining that uniqueness. I was on a call with a guy like literally just an hour ago, and he said he's a kind of a guy that's escaped the corporate world to start his own company. But he said when he was in the corporate world, he just felt like he was dumbed down, you know.
yeah,
And I feel that that is happening. You get someone that's kind of a fit to your culture, they have the skills that you want, you get them, you put them in the workspace, but you need to fit them to your vision, you need to fit them to the stage that the business is at, you need to fit them to your processes. And when, you know, with all this fitting, they just get squashed in a box, and before you know it, they hate their job, even though it's something that they thought they were really passionate about. I have a friend that works in Rolls-Royce. She said, I started, not the car company, the engine company, the plane engine.
okay. Well, same
Because
same
there's
company.
two of them, right? It's
Oh,
yes,
okay.
it's two companies,
Oh,
same name,
mm.
and it's really weird. Like, their logo just has a color difference or something like that. But
Okay,
anyway,
okay.
there's the car one, like the fancy cars, and then they also make the Rolls-Royce, the aerospace kind of engine.
Yeah, I've heard.
Yeah, and she trained as an engineer, got this job, which is really hard to get into, feeling like she's going to change the world, and she's been there for 5 years, and she's just looking at like tiny numbers, and just doing these really detailed stuff. And the question is like, okay, well, you need those detailed stuff to be done. Yeah, like maybe in time the more monotonous stuff can be done by machines. But right now, in order to achieve a company's vision, for a company to achieve their vision, they need people that do look at the detailed stuff. So how do you keep this person that like started their job with so much enthusiasm to do something that isn't necessary, but still keep their passion, still keep that uniqueness, and still keep on, I guess, bringing their best self to it. And yeah, it's been kind of a bit of a sticking spot for me, but I feel like I've kind of got to a point where um, I've figured out, well, how what culture we could create in workplaces that actually do enhance that individuality while they're still doing something that's kind of seemingly monotonous. Um,
Right.
and really, I think it boils, yeah.
You were saying in your one-liner guide that you should sort of channel your inner child.
Mm,
You should think about like the way if a kid can't understand, for instance, it's about elevator pitch, but I think it's also kind of about finding what you want to do in life. And so
yeah.
you know,
So I
I
think
guess
there's,
shifting there is like from the beginning part, how do you sort of figure it out? And I know people that work at bigger companies and they're happy. They get
Yeah.
tasks, they like to do the tasks, and they fit into that sort of, become sort of a machine. And there's other people that just, they want to branch out. They have more ideas. They have their own ideas, or they want to work from home, or they don't want to work at all. They just want to find,
Yeah.
right? But I think it was really interesting how you were saying, um, like when doing your pitch or explaining your business or thinking about it, channeling your inner child. Um, like what does that mean? Like my inner child, I played with Matchbox cars, and I don't know. I first discovered the
Yeah.
computer, and I thought it was really cool. Wow, I could do stuff.
I think that's it. That's exactly it. It's like being, as a child, we are less worried about the hows and more worried about the possibility of stuff happening. Like, what if I did this? I did some. I took a beer, the cardboard that holds beer cans together, and I kind of turned it into a sculpture of a famous Turkish kind of antique structure. Um, and now if I had a empty beer can, like, even if I thought of that for a moment, I'd be like, okay, well, let's throw it in a bin, because it's, you don't feel like it's worth the time. But as a child, like, all these things are so interesting to you, and you're so curious, and it's all about possibility. Like, what if I did this? Like, would it look like it, and could I do anything from it?
Yeah,
What happens if I do this? And it's always about kind of seeing the end result. And I think that's what's one thing that we're starved of as adults. Like, we're told to just, here's the beer cardboard thing, make a sculpture out of it, and then that's it. You'll never, I think, especially in employee settings, you're so disconnected from the end result that specific tiny task that you're doing is. It's, of course, you get demotivated because you're crunching these boring numbers that have no meaning to you. Well, maybe they do, but but no significant meaning to you. And there's no way of you connecting that to the very end. Like, what does this specific task mean in the bigger impact of the
right.
company? And I think companies try to do this with, like, generalizing a little bit, like, as a whole company, we're making the aerospace more efficient, for example, more environmentally friendly, whatever their main kind of vision is. And yes, it's motivating for employees up to a certain extent, but like, when it comes to day-to-day tasks, they can't see the result of this one task on the very end result. Like, if you're a business owner, I think you're a little bit luckier in that sense, because if you change your strategy of how you're creating leads, you can see the end result of that straight away, or almost straight away. But yeah, so I think one of the things that we really um, need to start focusing on is connecting employees and their day-to-day tasks to the end impact that has, like the exact impact that little task has. And I think it really, it kind of sounds like an impossible task, but I think it boils down to two things. A, connecting the understanding the workflow between each task and the very end result, like really mapping out that workflow to the T, so that you actually can track, this employee's crunching numbers over here, what's the end result that has, what's the end impact that has on the world, like what percentage of emissions does it reduce because of these numbers that they're crunching. So I think you need a really detailed map of the workflow and the I guess impact of each task on the next step. But you also need a really deep understanding of what does this employee actually care about? Like, what impact
Right.
does this employee is motivated by? Because maybe they're motivated by speed and not the environmental impact. So then you need to give them the impact in a language that motivates them. So I think we're entering an era where we need to start understanding what motivates people, what makes people feel alive better than ever. And that, I mean that in an employee sense, like understanding that with your employees so that you can motivate them in a more personalized way. But another topic that you were mentioning just now was even earlier, like understanding that from when we're asking kids to choose their career, um, how are they meant to choose what career line they want to go down if they have no understanding really of what makes them feel alive, because they've never had support on dissecting that, on really understanding what is it that makes me feel alive? What is my uniqueness? What's my inner gold, that I can make decisions to enhance, right? So I think we are entering an era where the unique humanness needs to be understood kind of better than ever before, if we really want to I guess thrive and perform as a human race, which I think is needed at this time, with a lot more than before, or more urgently than before.
Mhm. So why, this is your business, why do you care about it? And like, how did you get here? I guess I think one of your, it's funny because I'm also thinking about what you said. You said like when you're doing, so an elevator pitch could be anything, just doing an interview or just talking, right? You're like, talk about the why, and then the what, but and then the how, right?
Yeah, so the
So I guess
why, the how, and the
I'm getting
what.
to your why. Like,
Mm,
how did you get to this point, and
yeah.
why does it really excite you? I guess.
Mm. Yeah, so I was brought up I was brought up in Turkey, and I was brought up by parents that run an outdoor activities company. And one of the blessings that I received as a child was that I was brought up in the outdoors, kind of in a very free-spirited way, and I was constantly communicating with clients that my dad had, and I was showing them kind of the routes on the places that we were going, and this is the way through the canyon. So I felt very empowered to the fact that I could make a difference, to the fact that I could make people's lives a little bit better. So from my childhood, I felt very connected to the fact that I had potential to make a difference in the world, even though I didn't know exactly what that was. And as I grew up, I kind of went through the education system, very funneled down, and kind of you need to choose. Well, I moved to the UK to do my A levels because I could specialize more in the things that I wanted to do. So I specialized and narrowed it my whole life down into 4 subjects, and then I chose uni, narrowed it down into 1 subject, and then I got spat out the other end, and I was like, now I have this 1 subject that I'm meant to be an expert at, and the rest of my life is meant to kind of evolve around.
Geology, is it?
Geology, yeah. Yes, and even geology, I felt was kind of a decision that I was making around my own happiness. It wasn't only around kind of societal expectations. It wasn't just around money. I actually thought, okay, well, geology, it's outdoorsy and it's sciencey, and so I thought that was in the power that I had. Some kind of a good decision for me. They're setting up for a nice future. But the more I went through and the closer I got to graduating, the more I realized how far I was from really being in my element. Not because of the subject, but I think for geology specifically, it was just the jobs that geology led to were very much against my core values. And the more I realized this, the more I realized how kind of disconnected I was from what really made me feel alive. So long story short, I actually went on a bit of a gap year to figure my life out, and I took jobs that inspired me, and for somehow it kind of worked, and I didn't go broke, and I ended up becoming an NLP practitioner and a yoga teacher, and I started working with people in kind of a bit of a consultancy context in helping them figure out their why. And yeah, basically helping them decide on what is the direction that they want to take in their life. So what I realized in this whole journey was that the thing that made me feel alive, like my why, was helping people live fully connected lives. And when I say fully connected, I mean like connected to ourselves, connected to the role that we have in the world, in our community, in society, I guess, how we can add value to our society, and also connected to nature, the universe, like this bigger thing that we're a part of. It's not just humans and humans, right? It's humans and we're another droplet in this massive ocean. So connected really to our origins. So, and I think for me, the best way for me to achieve that why is to understand this inner gold, enhance it, and express it so that we can live a fully connected life. So that's kind of how my journey started, and what the why is behind it that shaped the direction that it took.
Yeah. So what is inner gold? Like, is it untapping your potential, like economically, and finding what you want to do? Or is it, honestly, I think some people I know find their inner gold and they're like, you know what? I'm just going to drop out. Like,
Mm,
I'm going to make enough money to pay rent and everything, and obviously be an adult and take care of stuff. But I'm just going to take my 1 year off and make it 10 years.
mm,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, I feel like I've met people um, that are on the verge of that or feel like that, and they're kind of guilted. Like, I need to keep working. I need to keep producing.
mm,
And I'm like I have a good friend who cut back his hours. He's like I said, you have to be an adult. You have to accept certain things if you have kids or responsibilities. But if you don't have kids, that's a big one. Um, um, for some people it's just about connecting with what they want to do, not economically, right?
yeah,
But have you ever had a conversation with somebody where they're like, I don't really like working that much, I just like going,
mm,
I like my startup, but it's not what I want to do. And you said, what do you want to do? I just want to fish or
yeah.
something, you
So
know
so there's this common concept of the difference between, I guess, your why and your passions. So fishing and dancing and whatever activities are a passion, and they're great. Um, but I think that isn't what I mean by inner gold. And by no way am I suggesting that there's one activity that we should be doing to make to live up to our fullest potential. Um, I would really highly recommend this book by Simon Sinek called Start With Why, which really dives into this context in a beautifully deep way. Or if you're not a bookworm, he's got a really good TED talk as well called How Great Leaders Inspire Action, and it really gives you a really short, snappy understanding of what we actually mean when we say why, because it's not an activity. So a why is basically a set of themes that reoccur throughout the times that we're at our best. So, for example, I love dancing, and I was very seriously considering becoming a professional dancer. I'm glad I didn't, because I would have been miserable. But I love dancing, and up until when I discovered my why, I just thought it was about the fact the magic was about the activity itself. But now I realize, for me, the magic, the way that ties, now that I've kind of explained to you my why, the way that dancing ties into my why is because it allows me to express myself in a way that I'm not limited, blocked by words, right? So it allows me to expose myself in a way that's not limited. So really your why is the themes that reoccur throughout all of the activities that make you feel alive, throughout all of the actions that you have felt at your best. So really the way that I help people find their why is I get them to tell me stories of the times in their life that have most shaped the person that they've become today. And it can be positive events, or it can be really, some of them are really negative events. But the events that have most shaped who you become, we've all got these pivotal moments in our lives. It can be from when we were a toddler to anywhere between now. And it can be kind of in any frequency. Some people have like very key points, turning points in their life. Some people feel like it's a million little different dots. It doesn't matter, but we've all got these different pivot points. And the thing that I guide my clients through is, okay, so this event happened. How did you feel about that? What was it about that event particularly that made you remember it? And we dive down into what were the drivers that were operating inside of you that made you act in the way that you did. So in the positive moments, we start to notice that themes are recurring that were present in all of the positive moments. And in the negative moments, we start to notice recurring themes that were lacking in the negative moments. So basically your why is the themes that reoccur when you're at your best, when you, the unique you, is at your best. And it's a way that it's fancily put into one sentence, but really it's a compilation of themes. And they can show up in lots of different ways, because now that I know that I like helping people live a fully connected life, and I do that through understanding our inner goal, enhancing it and expressing it. I could do that through what I'm doing now in my business. I could do that through running yoga retreats, helping people connect to themselves. I could do that through working with high school students, helping them figure out what they want to do in their life. I could do that with working with tech founders, helping them connect employees to their end impact that they were having. There's a million different avenues of what I can be doing, activities that I could be doing. Some of them make money, some of them probably won't. I could just be drawing paintings for the rest of my life, but I'm not good enough to make any money from it. So to answer your question in a really roundabout way, once you understand the drivers that are in play when you're at your best, you have the mental clarity and the power to make decisions on if you would like to make money from that, or if you would like to step back. But the decision isn't around if I want to make money or not. The decision is around, do I want to live in line with my why or not? And there are plenty of paths that live in line with your why that make money, and there's plenty of paths that live in line with your why that you could take a 10-year gap year. So
Right.
I don't know if that answers your question, but
Yeah, no, it does. I mean, like I always, when I talk to people, friends or something, ask for advice. And I'm really not like it seems like a big thing to take on to give people advice like this. So you've obviously studied it, but I'm always like, money is a real thing. Like, let me just say, like, responsibility. Of course, you can live off grid. There's different ways. There's different flexibility. But my dad taught me some good things. Always pay your bills on time. I don't always pay them like necessarily on time, but you gotta do a few things. So in terms of cash, it is nice. Like if you're, I don't know, really into something, you have a really good talent, and then you can channel that into something to make some economic benefit for yourself, so you can get your food and pay your bills and be settled, or whatever it is you need, your gas, so that you can go on trips, and then you can go do that. So I always tell people, like, you don't have to like quit your day job. You could just do less work in the day or something, or whatever. So I think that's an important point. Like, people will say, my goal is to like, gee, I I saw I saw somebody. This guy stopped Jerry Seinfeld on the street. Jerry Seinfeld, he's very rich, and the guy says, why are you still working? Like, you don't have to work. And he's like, what? Yeah, I do. Well, what would I do? What am I supposed to do? Like, I have to do something with my time, right? Like, so in my roundabout way is just saying you can't ignore those things. So I always like preface it like, when my friends say, oh, man, I want to quit my job. I'm like, you got to have those basic things.
I think
But
one
yeah,
of the
I want to.
yeah.
I wanted to ask. So you have a really good tone when talking, and also I think British accent to Americans. It's like, all of our nature documentaries have like British guys narrating. So it's very interesting thing for Americans that we speak the same language. We have different tone. Me, I have a very flat tone. I was going to ask for your advice. What advice would you give me to maybe, like, if I should brighten up, or if I'm trying to make that emotional connection? It seems like not just the message, but the way that you sound. Like, are you excited? Are you, what kind of advice would you give to, like, I hear a lot of tech founders, and I'm just continuing with this question, that are, hey, welcome to this. This is our company. What we're doing is we're revolutionizing the entire universe. It could be a great thing, but it's hard for them to sound expressive.
Yeah.
How do you approach that part?
That's an interesting question, actually, because I don't actually work with my clients necessarily on the verbal communication, or I don't practice with them the verbal communication, but it is something that I think about a lot. So thank you for asking that. So I hear a lot of kind of public speaking coaches say, well, you need to fluctuate your voice and you need to do lots of face expressions and be energetic. And I think that has come from observing a lot of people that have been effective in their verbal communication. But I do so basically, sorry, let me rewind. What I believe in is when you are connected to that why, to that inner goal, when you're speaking, when you're connected to that inner child of what will happen if, I think that the natural response is that you become a little bit more animated. I don't think that needs to be manipulated, like, well, you need to raise your right eyebrow more and actually have more fluctuations in your voice when you're talking, because suddenly you start to suddenly you start to become a robot, right? And people can see right through that. People see right through that, even though they might not say it, they might not even consciously realize it, but like our human brains are incredible, like more incredible than what we consciously realize. Subconsciously, people realize a lot of stuff. And if you turn up to a meeting and you're like, Alara told me to be animated and I need to be animated, people might think, oh yeah, he has energy, but they won't connect that with he like building trust or building a sense of, wow, look at it, he's so inspiring, is so connected to his purpose. So my advice around that is do your best to connect to your vision and don't think about the part where how you're presenting it. You present it the way that you present it. The work happens inside, and the inner work is to is if you feel if you get bored when you're presenting what you're saying, and it sounds monotonous to you, then it's going to sound monotonous to them. If you're passionate about it, that's going to come around in your voice, and sometimes that manifests like super animated, and sometimes it manifests in a little bit more of a flat tone of voice. And I think public speaking coaches do have a point in saying, like, if your voice is telling a bit of a story, if you're dancing, I guess, with the way that you're speaking, it's much more enjoyable to be a part of. But if that's orchestrated, then it starts to become fake. So I would say less focus on what you externally look and sound like, and more focus on actually feeling the passion, and like, are you actually really passionate about what you're doing? Because that comes across. So, and the other point that you were making about the money, I wanted to just address that, because it is something that comes a lot in, even if it's just parents giving their kids advice. Sort out your money first, and then you can do stuff that you enjoy. And I find this concept of money being separate from stuff that you enjoy a real kind of mind baffling fact, and why it's and I think it originates from the fact that doing stuff that you love is an activity. It's going back to that thing of, like, my passion is dancing, and therefore I can't make money from dancing, and then I can't do dancing, right? When I talk about your why, I don't talk about an activity. I talk about a way of being, and there are certain types of jobs and certain types of careers that helps you live in line with that way of being more. So I don't agree with looking at money and feeling alive separately, because I believe that the more alive we feel, the more people want to interact with us, the more people feel magnetized towards us. If I had my same LinkedIn profile and I was doing financial advising, and if I knew anything about financial advising, it would my business just would not work, because I wouldn't be able to make videos and feel as animated or have as much energy. I wouldn't even get inspiration to what to do videos about. So when we're connected to our why, and we're in a career that enhances that, that's when we can bring our best selves, and that's when we magnetize work and opportunities and employees and and whatever it is towards us. So I think when you look at your why in terms of a set of themes, as opposed to an activity, then money and feeling alive can absolutely go together.
Yeah, I think, yeah, a lot of younger kids, right, grow up on computers and learn about computers, and you can make an entire living through the computer. Obviously, through this pandemic, a lot of people learn. I mean, I worked from home, but that it was cool when I worked from home because everyone said, "Oh, I had to go to the office," and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I'm working from home." Now everybody
Yeah.
works from home, and I feel
Yeah.
like going to the office, because
Yeah.
I want to be contrarian. But I think a lot of young people growing up really need to hear this message because they do have the potential if they can learn something on the, you can do uh, graphic art, you could do design, you could do web design, you could do coding, you could do coaching, you could do therapy, you could do many things. But I do have I always say I have a soft spot for people that, um, they went through high school and whatever, and they had a family and they just have a job where they make widgets or whatever, and they find some. I think working with people you like is really important. So there
Yeah.
are people that, I know people that have had don't really have a lot of options where they live, and they work a job, but they work with people they
Yeah.
like. So one
Mm.
thing I always tell them that when people say, "What kind of job should I get?" I say one where the people you work with say hi and ask you how you're doing, and they're people you
Yeah.
like. But if you can choose what you want to do as a path, which kids that are, I don't know, 25 or younger. I'm not that old, but anyone that really grew up in the internet age and learned something more than like playing video games,
Hmm.
uh, which is what originally got me on the computer, can really go and pursue a lot of different things. And you could be in the forest as long as you have a satellite dish, or you could work from anywhere. You could.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
And
really interesting. I did want to ask. I don't know much about NLP. This is might be a quick transition. I don't know much about NLP and I like what it is, if it's accepted or whatever. But like, what do you see NLP as, and how has it like helped you?
yeah.
I also saw your yoga instructor, so that helps you to keep calm. But what is this NLP practice?
Yeah. So NLP stands for neuro linguistic programming, and neuro is everything around brain. Linguistic is a language that our brain uses, and programming is the connection, the I guess the actions that that language causes. Because basically, the way that our brain works is that we're constantly having this internal dialogue in our brain. There is constantly some kind of, if recently I've been watching a load of, well, it's kind of crappy TV, excuse the language. So and because I've been watching a lot of it, my I in my free time, or when I'm working, or I've just gone to bed, I run scenarios through my head of like what could have happened, or what would have happened, or what that person said, and there's constantly dialogue going on in our head,
You
and
you
it's
went you went down the Netflix hole,
yeah,
or one of the
absolutely.
You
So
know,
I
it's
I went.
been it's been interesting. I just want like you start going deeper in, and how did I get, and you start
Yeah.
running out of series you like. But anyways, I
Oh,
I
it's
can
honestly
relate. I
like
just
these
have to
like
say, I think everyone's been
mind-numbing TV series.
you go deep. How did I end up? But anyways, yeah, I continue what you're saying, that it's kind of on your mind because it's what you're
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah, well, it's there was this one called Married at First Sight, and it's like the most mind-numbing thing. So I'm talking about that kind of. It's like I don't think it has any benefit to me at all. But anyway, sometimes you just feel like I just want to watch some shit TV. So you do, but what's been happening is that it's that dialogue has been going on in my brain constantly, and I've noticed how sensitive that internal dialogue is to the external dialogue that I hear. So if someone's constantly telling me from my childhood, Alara, you're just so fat. Like honestly, you really should just lose weight. Or if someone tells me, um, can you just stop talking when an adult's talking, uh, that's giving me the message, and if that happens over and over again, that's giving me the message that my opinion doesn't matter, and then that starts to become my internal dialogue. My opinion doesn't matter. So this internal dialogue is very sensitive, especially when we're children, to what's happening in our external world, and what this internal dialogue affects the way that we feel, right? So I don't feel, Alara, your voice isn't important. So the feeling that I have is shrink, right? It's feelings kind of, we call it submodalities. It's kind of textures and colors and sizes and movements, right? So the feeling that I have associated with don't speak Alara is shrinking and whatever. So and that's the feeling that I have. So the way that the feeling affects the way that I act, right? So when it comes to public speaking, and suddenly I have a great idea that I want to share, I say maybe I shouldn't share it. Maybe I should just stay silent so that because my voice doesn't matter. There's other people with more important voices. So I don't take that action. Or when I do speak, I just speak with a really, really shallow voice, and no one really gets what I mean because they're too distracted by trying to listen to me, right? So and eventually it comes full circle. It affects my reality because I'm taking actions that are in line with Alara, you really shouldn't be speaking. And the world that I'm creating around me is people that expect me to be quiet. And that feeds back into my mental chatter. People expect me to be quiet, so therefore my voice doesn't matter. And it's confirming that original belief that I had, so it makes me feel even more small, so etc. So there's these cycles. It's called a mental feedback loop. So the mental dialogue, feelings, actions, reality, and then back into mental dialogue. And NLP is basically a tool that you can use to intercept that dialogue. I mean, because this mental feedback loop, it can, in that example, it was a negative feedback loop. It can kind of cycle and cycle until I feel that I'm not worthy enough to be alive, for example. And in a lot of cases, currently, unfortunately, that does happen in the world. But it also works the other way around as well. Like, it also works in the positive way, and you can build yourself up to be the best in the world. And there are some, there's a lot of people in the world that are thriving because they've figured out how to master this mental feedback loop and set it off in the direction that obviously serves them. So NLP is really about understanding the language that we use in our brain and intercepting the language that we use, intercepting the way that we feel, which therefore in turn affects our actions and
Sounds similar to
our reality.
cognitive behavioral therapy, which is
Yeah.
I mean, it's just basically
They're all kind of in the same family.
yeah.
They're all intercepting different aspects of that mental feedback loop in different using different techniques.
Yeah, Alara, thank you so much for joining me. I know it's later where you are. I learned a lot, and it's fun. It's fun.
Thank you so much for having me.
Why don't you tell me how what do you how can people find you? What ways do you want to connect with people? And yeah, anything you're doing with your own business here.
Yeah, so currently I have a business called Alara Vural Coaching, and I work with tech founders to help them express themselves, surprisingly. So help them articulate their vision, clarify what they do, and to leverage storytelling in a way that connects with people emotionally and gets them to take action. So you can connect with me on LinkedIn, Alara Vural. Or you can go to my website, alaravural.com. And we were mentioning the one-liner guide in this call. So that's basically a free guide that I've created that helps you create a one-liner about what you do so that people not only understand what you do, but actually feel excited about it as well. So if you'd like access to that, it's alaravural /1-liner-guide.